Her scream split the desert wind in two. When Cole Harding reached the ridge, he saw a young woman buried in dust and streaked with blood. Her wrists were tied behind her, skin raw where the ropes bit deep. Two more lines stretched from her ankles to stakes hammered hard into the ground, pulling her body tight beneath the brutal sun. Her torn dress clung to her, soaked with sweat, blood, and grit. The air wavered in heat, and for one stunned instant Cole thought he'd found a ghost. Every breath she drew came out as a rasp, thin and broken, barely human. Her whole frame shook, and the sound that reached him felt wrong. Too wrong, deeper. "Please, I can't take it anymore." For a heartbeat, Cole went still. That voice, those words, any stranger might have mistaken them for something sinful. But when he urged his horse closer, the truth came clear. Her lips were cracked, her throat scorched from screaming. She wasn't pleading for touch. She was pleading to breathe. The weight of the heat pressed down on her chest like a curse. Grains of sand glued to her bleeding legs, making every movement hurt. A lone vulture circled above, patient as judgment. Cole felt time thin to nothing, and he moved. He leapt from his horse, knife drawn. The cords had cut deep. Flies buzzed in the still air, feeding on dried wounds. One slice freed an ankle, another tore through a knot. The girl gasped, half faint, half fight. Her eyes flickered open, wild with terror. "Help!" she breathed. Cole caught her head gently. Her pulse fluttered, her knees bruised black and blue. His jaw locked tight. Whoever had done this hadn't just meant harm. They'd savored it. He scanned the barren land. No tracks but his own. No sound but wind and her shuddering breath. He let a few drops of water fall to her lips. She flinched, whispering about a man in a black coat and a camera. Cold prickled his spine. Cole turned toward the horizon and caught a glint of something half buried in the sand. For a second, he thought it was a mirage, a desert trick for the weary. But the glass flashed again, sharp and real, like the land itself pointing at the devil who did this. "A broken camera lens," he muttered. "Jesus, this ain't my sin." And in that instant, what had looked obscene a moment ago revealed itself for what it was, an act of saving from hell. The woman wasn't a sinner. She was a victim, and the man who found her wasn't part of the crime. He was about to unearth it. Cole lifted her onto his horse with care. Every breath she drew sounded like a confession torn from her chest. He didn't know her name, but in her eyes, through pain and dust, he saw purpose. This wasn't chance. Someone had meant for her to suffer. Someone had meant for someone to see. As the wind rose and erased their tracks, Cole turned once more toward the shattered glass glinting in the sand. It caught the dying sun like an unblinking eye, still watching. Who the hell was taking those pictures? He muttered. And worse, why did they want her found that way? The sun dipped low, painting the sky the color of old whiskey. Cole tied his horse outside the barn and carried the girl in. Her skin burned with fever. He pressed a damp cloth to her forehead and murmured, "You're safe now, whoever you are." Outside, the desert had gone still again. Too still, as if waiting for something dark to crawl free. And it did. Miles away, Jack Blackwell brushed the dust off a hulking wooden camera. His black duster hung heavy, hat pulled low, eyes cold as winter steel. Once folks had called him a bounty gun. Now he hunted a different kind of prey. Not men, but their shame. The photos he took weren't for walls. They were for silence. He carried glass plates soaked in silver nitrate, ready to trap a soul in one cruel flash. Beside him lay a letter sealed in red wax, $5,000 due when the banker sees what his daughters become. Jack grinned, cigarette trembling between steady hands. He turned to the clearing, the ropes cut, the stakes fallen, and his jaw hardened. Someone had ruined his masterpiece. He crouched, brushed the sand, and found a boot print. Square heel, deep cut, a rancher's boot. "Well now," he drawled. "Looks like the cowboy wandered into my picture too." Back at the barn, Cole sat near the fire. The girl stirred, whispering through sleep. Something about a black coat, a camera clicking in the dark. Cole's gut twisted. He turned the shard of glass in his hand, its edge catching the firelight like a blade. Outside, the wind shifted. He smelled sulfur and smoke, gunpowder's promise. Cole took up his rifle and stepped onto the porch. The night was silent, watching. Miles away, Jack dipped another glass plate, whispering, "You took my subject, rancher. Now I'll take you." He packed his camera, mounted his horse, and rode into the dark. Each hoofbeat echoed like a countdown. In the barn, the girl woke with a start, gasping his name for the first time. Cole, and far out in the desert something clicked again. Not thunder, not a gun. The sound of a lens cap snapping shut. So who was really hunting whom? Hunting who tonight? The night stretched long over the ranch. Crickets sang somewhere in the grass. Cole sat by the fire wiping down his rifle, eyes fixed on the door. The girl, awake now, sat on the bed's edge wearing one of his shirts. It hung loose on her small frame, her hair a tangle of shadows, but her eyes, sharp, clear, were alive again. "My name is Evelyn," she said softly. Cole nodded. "Name suits you." Her voice cracked as she whispered. "The man who tied me, he said he'd come back for the pictures." Cole's hand stopped cold. "Pictures." That word again. He rose, moved to the window, and stared out toward the dark hills. The desert looked calm, but calm meant nothing here. "If he's coming," he said low, "he won't leave again." Evelyn tried to stand, her knees buckling. He caught her before she fell, his hand brushing the edge of the bandage on her arm. For a moment their eyes met. It wasn't love yet, but something close, something fragile, human, dangerous. She pulled back, flustered. "I can take care of myself," Cole smiled faintly. "Then you and I got that in common." Outside, a horse neighed, too sharp. "Too close." Cole's face hardened. He grabbed his rifle. "Stay low," he whispered. The barn door groaned open. A shadow stepped through, carrying the scent of smoke and silver. Blackjack. He'd come for his camera plates. For his prize. Cole moved first, slamming the rifle stock into Jack's jaw. The outlaw staggered but didn't fall. He came back swinging, fists heavy, eyes lit with fury. The two crashed into the dirt, blows thundering off the wooden walls. Above them, the lantern swung wild, throwing ghostly silhouettes of men locked in battle. Board split, dust flew. Horses kicked in their stalls, screaming like they felt the fight themselves. Evelyn crawled to the saddle stand, fingers trembling until they found the small knife hidden in her boot. When Jack pinned Cole to the ground, she lunged and drove the blade deep into his thigh. He roared, twisting toward her, but Cole broke free and slammed him hard into a post. The final crack came like thunder, and then silence. Cole bound Jack to the saddle beam, blood dripping slow to the floor. Then he turned to the stack of glass plates by the door. One by one he smashed them, each shatter ringing like freedom breaking loose. Evelyn sank against the wall, breath ragged. Cole looked at her, voice quiet. "It's over," but she shook her head. "Not yet." "My father will find out," Evelyn whispered. "He'll think I shamed him." Cole's jaw hardened. "Then let him see who really did the shaming." Outside, the horizon began to glow, the first silver edge of dawn. Somewhere distant, a horse neighed. Not Jack's. Someone else was coming. Before we find out who's riding toward that ranch, take a breath, pour yourself a cup of tea, and tell me in the comments what time it is, and where you're listening from. If you're still here, you're part of this story now. So hit that subscribe button, because what's coming next? Well, it's about to get even wilder. The sound of hooves tore through the quiet morning. Cole rose from the porch, eyes narrowing as 3 riders came into view. Dust curled behind them like smoke from Judgment Day. Sheriff Amos Reed led the way, coat flapping, badge dulled by years of use. 2 deputies followed, hands resting on their guns. Cole stepped down, rifle low but ready. The sheriff lifted a hand. "Morning, Cole. Heard there was trouble out here." Cole didn't blink. "There was. It's tied up in my barn." When they entered, Blackjack was still bound to the post, half-conscious, mean as a coyote in a snare. The sheriff knelt, picking up a shard of broken glass. "This from him?" Cole nodded. The sheriff sniffed the air. "Smells like flash powder." "I'll be damned. He's been using wet plates." Evelyn stood against the wall, pale but steady. Her voice came before anyone asked. "He took pictures of me, sent letters to my father, said he'd print them unless we paid $5,000. The sheriff's face darkened. He turned to his deputy. "Chain him. We ride at dawn. Judge in Dodge Creek will want to look at this himself." Jack spat blood, grinning through the pain. "You think a judge will hang me, rancher? The man paying me owns that courthouse." The sheriff's jaw worked tight. "Then maybe justice will find another way." By sunrise, Jack Blackwell was dead in his cell, rope around his neck, no note left behind. Maybe he hung himself. Maybe the desert made the choice for him. The sheriff tipped his hat to Evelyn. "Miss, you can ride home now. We'll send a wire to your father." Her face went still. "I'm not going back. Your father's Silas Hart, ain't he? He'll send men after you." She looked straight at Cole. Then let him. That afternoon, Cole buried what was left of the broken camera behind the barn. Evelyn helped, both of them pressing the dirt down with silent hands. The quiet between them said more than words ever could. As the sun sank low, a carriage appeared on the horizon. Polished, expensive, wrong for this land. Cole's fingers brushed his gun. The man who stepped out wore a black suit and a banker's scowl. Silas Hart, Evelyn's father. He scanned the ranch like it was filth under his boots. "So," he said coldly, "this is where my daughter's been hiding." Evelyn stepped forward. "I wasn't hiding. I was surviving." He turned to Cole. "You saved her life, rancher. I'll pay you for that, but you'll stay away from her." Cole didn't move. His voice came low, steady. "She's not for sale." Silas stared, fury kindling in his eyes. "You think you're good enough for my blood?" Evelyn's voice cut through the air. "He's the only one who didn't treat me like property." The wind fell still. Silas froze, face pale with fury, then turned back toward his carriage. Without another word, he climbed in. The wheels ground against the dirt as he rode away, rage trailing behind him like dust. Evelyn whispered, "He'll come back." Cole met her eyes, calm and steady. "Then we'll be ready." But what Silas did next, no one could have seen coming. For days after he left, the ranch stayed quiet. No carriages, no riders, just the hum of crickets and the slow heartbeat of two people trying to find peace. Evelyn worked beside Cole in the fields, her strength returning inch by inch. Summer crept in, slow and merciless. The fever faded, but the desert scars remained, etched into her skin and spirit. Cole never rushed her. Some mornings she could barely lift a bucket. Others she stood in the yard learning to steady her aim. When she hit her first tin can, Cole smiled. Not bad for someone who learned to stand before she learned to shoot. She grinned. Not bad for a rancher's teacher. Laughter began to come easy after that, so did the quiet talks by the fire. Cole told her how the land had raised him when people wouldn't. Evelyn told him how wealth had caged her long before she was born. Somewhere between those stories they fell in love without ever needing to say the word. But love in the West was never safe. Silas Hart didn't give up so easy. Weeks later, 2 riders appeared at the ranch claiming to be lawmen. Cole saw through the lie before they spoke 2 words. He sent them packing, rifles silent but ready. The message was clear. Money still wanted to own what it couldn't understand. After that, no more riders came. Maybe Silas had finally learned. Some debts can't be collected in gold. That evening, Evelyn burned the last letter he'd sent. "I already lost everything," she murmured. "Now I'm building what's real." Cole watched her, pride burning in his eyes. He handed her the Colt. "Then keep this. Next time someone tries to frame you, you show 'em how a free woman aims." By midsummer, the land had turned gold, the sky heavy with heat. Sheriff Reed stopped by once, tipping his hat with a smile. "Guess the desert ain't such a lonely place anymore." Days rolled by slow, stitched together with chores and quiet laughter. The ranch began to breathe again, not as a hiding place, but as a home. That night, Evelyn stood on the porch, watching the sun drown in a horizon red as fire. "Some men frame you," she whispered. "Others break the lens." Cole came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. The air smelled of dust, rain, and new beginnings. Thunder rumbled low in the distance. They both knew what they'd chosen wasn't easy, but it was theirs, because love isn't about running from the storm. It's about learning to ride through it, together. So if you've ever been told you're not enough, remember Evelyn. Remember that every scar can still bloom into strength. Now take a breath. Sip your coffee or your tea. Tell me in the comments what time it is and where you're listening from. And if this story touched you, even a little, hit that like button and subscribe, because out here, in this quiet corner of the Wild West, every story we share keeps the fire burning just a little longer.